Good evening. Welcome to After the Buzzer here at Hive State Hockey. And, loser points, baby. Big loser point for Utah Hockey Club tonight as they fall to the Chicago Blackhawks for the first time in franchise history. My name is Keith Schertz. I run things around here at Hive State Hockey. And if you are back visiting with us again, like my guy Car Wash and Scott, welcome back. I applaud your exceedingly fine taste. And if you find us for the first time here, appreciate you for checking in. Hopefully you'll enjoy hanging out with us here. Okay, well, interesting. Trade deadline day goes through today. And in addition to that, Utah Hockey Club makes very few moves after making a lot of moves over the summer, doesn't really do much at the trade deadline that's going to affect this season, and instead just did a lot of retaining players and having those things in place. We'll talk more about the trade deadline later, but first let's talk about this game a little bit. Big game for Utah Hockey Club tonight, as they fall in overtime on a Connor Bedard goal. Connor Bedard, obviously, I thought he was really great tonight. I thought that he created several chances on the rush, several opportunities with the forecheck, and several opportunities by just finding a way, again, this is the rush, but through the neutral zone. In particular, the second period for Utah Hockey Club tonight was brutal tonight for Utah Hockey Club. Not a great night for those guys. But sorry, I was just looking at a couple of the advanced stat things. Also checking in with what's going on tonight. We're going to be doing some scoreboard watching tonight. Hopefully things will still line up tonight. Hopefully we can get the Minnesota Wild to get a win over Vancouver. That'll be important. And obviously, we'll also be aware of what's happening with St. Louis and Anaheim, and we want to keep an eye on that. But as it relates to the Blackhawks and how that game went tonight, first of all, the game in general, you look at games like this, it's the second game of a back-to-back. They were in Detroit last night. Here they are playing in Chicago tonight. Really a difficult thing to do in all professional sports, really hard thing to do to go ahead and win on back-to-back nights. I thought that they looked awfully tired and out of it in the second period. Chicago did have a full day's rest advantage over the Utah Hockey Club, and it was one of those things that I thought manifested itself into the way the game played out tonight. It looked very, very much like Utah Hockey Club just did not have their legs tonight in a way that would enable them to go out and perform really well. They took 20 minutes off. Now, this isn't to say this is going to go down as kind of a really devastating loss in many ways. This is one of those games that down the stretch of the season you'll look at it and think, well, at least they got the loser point. As Scott, you've mentioned in the chat, and you know that's right. They still got the loser point. That's great that they were able to continue to try to close the gap and continue to make a move in the right direction. But the real issue here is this is a team in the Chicago Blackhawks that you would love to see them be able to take care of business against. Obviously, we know Chicago has not had a great year, but we do know and respect the skill of Bedard. And again, I thought Mikheyev was good as well, but I thought Bedard in particular tonight really showed some of his class after having a decent stretch where he's been struggling a little bit. I thought Connor Bedard was really quite a good player tonight for the Chicago Blackhawks, really the difference in the game. Also, Spencer Knight in net. Huge game. Taking his opportunity after being behind Sergei Bobrovsky in Florida for all that time. Now he's with Chicago, loving the chance to get plenty of time between the pipes. And he played a terrific game. It is an awful lot of saves. And Utah was able to get 39 shots. The first and third periods, Utah was totally and completely dominant. It was the second period. They let Chicago get 13 shots on net. They allowed only 10 shots combined with the first and third period. So, again, this is a game where in the first period, Utah looked really great. The second period, they looked slow. And in particular, the player that I thought was really brutal tonight for Utah Hockey Club was Sean Durzi. Obviously, there was the 2 goals that came because of our lack of being able to get a breakout on the stick of Sean Durzi. And I think that Sean Durzi's performance tonight was not particularly strong. He took a really big hit against Detroit. He's still trying to get his legs underneath him on the season. So I understand all of those things, but I just thought that Sean Durzi tonight was pretty rough. Several opportunities in that second period where there were, breakaways and opportunities to get to the net. And it wasn't just Sean Durzi. It was a lot of the defensemen. John Marino and Sergachev got burned through the neutral zone. They were able to get split. They gave up straight through the middle, and that led to the penalty shot. And so that wasn't great. Frank Nazar was able to get through the neutral zone, able to put in some really good work and find a way to get to the net, and then Marino needed to try to do something about it. They gave him a penalty shot, and obviously it was a really nice finish on the penalty shot. So Kaiser gets the goal off the great forecheck by Bedard. Mikheyev scores from Donato, and then on the penalty shot, Frank Nazar gets the goal. And then Bedard gets the goal in overtime tonight for Utah Hockey Club. Nick Schmaltz scored within the first minute of the game. It was a really nice look right in the slot. Keller got it to him for his 49th assist of the season. John Marino gets his very first goal for Utah Hockey Club. That was a great rip towards the net on that. And again, that was a lot of what was being caused there was the really good work and job being done by Josh Doan and continuing to create havoc on the forecheck and the work he's doing there. The McBain, Doan, and Krause. Welcome to the season, Lawson Krause. He finally found a partnership, a line that seems to jive with him, or for whatever reason, it's unlocked a little bit in Lawson Krause. So that's been a good thing to see. Jack McBain, Josh Doan, Lawson Krause. Finally, it's giving a little bit of a physical edge to the Utah Hockey Club, and that's been a good thing. That third line, checking line, can give you a little bit of momentum by changing the game with some physicality, and can maybe tilt the ice a little bit and get it ready for your first or second line to come back in and potentially be in the offensive end of the ice and have a chance to attack. So I think it was good to see in the third period the fight back. They were down 3-1, and the fight back to be able to tie the game up and send it to overtime. That is may turn out to be a really big 1-point loser point tonight, but really is a game that they may look as a missed opportunity. But the reality of it is, it's the second game on the back-to-back. That is always a really, really difficult spot to be in, and to find a way to go out and find a way to win a game like that is really difficult. I thought it was interesting you didn't get Connor Ingram and Vejmelka. Instead, we got 2 straight nights of Veggie, and I thought Veggie was great. I thought Veggie played a really solid hockey game tonight. I didn't think any of the goals that he gave up were particularly soft. I think he did everything that he could to really give them a chance. And again, it was really the second period. The second period, for whatever reason, the neutral zone started to be totally dominated by Chicago, to the point that just getting breakouts out of the zone. And yeah, the defensive pairings just did not play well, in particular Sean Dursey, but also, there was that one, you can't let a player go straight in towards the net right through the neutral zone. There's just no communication. It's like the eyes were in the wrong spots, and then coming straight down the middle was Nazar, and the next thing you know, penalty shot. So really, really rough sequence. I mean, the second period, they gave up all three of those goals in about 5 minutes time. And in between that, Veggie had made a couple breakaway saves and things like that. I mean, they were awful for that 5-6 minute stretch. They could not break the puck out. That was some of the worst hockey they've played this year. And I'm going to choose to blame it on fatigue and being really, really tired. That's the thing that seems to make the most sense about the scenario they're in. But I do think that, it's an important thing for them to continue to work on through the end of the season. I put together a little bit of data that I think is worth taking a look at. I think Utah Hockey Club this season has an interesting profile as it relates to what they're trying to accomplish on the ice and how their offense is, functioning as this season goes along. So here's what I want to show you here. Let's see. There we go. Okay. So 5-on-5. This season, the quality of shots by Utah Hockey Club is the place where there's an issue for this team. This team is heavily dependent on having power plays. And I'll show you the power play numbers here in just a second, but the power plays for this team are so crucial as it relates to their ability to score. The best place to determine how good a team is what you're observing from them in 5-on-5. And when it relates to when they have an attacking opportunity on 5-on-5, you can see the numbers there. 3.73% of their shots end up being goals. It's 27th in the NHL. Only 41% of their shots end up going to the net and making it through and getting to the net. So that's 28th in the NHL. They miss the net on over a quarter of their shots. That's 27th in the NHL. The one place where their numbers have really improved from earlier in this season is in this one, but 29% of their shots are getting blocked, which is 19th in the NHL. So the quality of the shots being taken by the Utah Hockey Club are not, the shots that they're getting on 5-on-5 are not actually threatening high danger shots, combined with the sort of clean look accuracy that you would hope to find from the team. They're one of the worst shot taking teams in the NHL in terms of the effectiveness of their shots at even strength. So their 5-on-5 attack for this team is not strong. Not strong. Now, that's okay, but I think it's important for us to be clear about what are some of the weaknesses of this team and where do they need to improve and what are things they can put together. One of the things that's come around this year, you've seen several improvement places all season. We've seen the improvement of the penalty kill. We've seen the improvement of the power play. Yeah, okay, so hitting posts and crossbars, just to clarify that, Scott, and I'll pull that up real quick. So just to show you one other time. So posts and crossbars are included on miss the net. Those count as miss the nets. I don't have a specific on what it is in terms of crossbars hit this year or posts. That would be an interesting stat to take a look at. They have hit it several times, obviously. A lot of teams hit the post, but it does feel like Utah hits them a lot. But I am certain that those shots would be classified as a miss the net shot. So the effectiveness, again, it's the piece that I wanted to bring up, but the effectiveness of Utah Hockey Club as it relates to what they're accomplishing at even strength, their effectiveness offensively is not strong in terms of their shot selection and what they're able to accomplish in those circumstances. So yeah, I appreciate that. I should see if there's a website that has something about hitting posts and all that stuff. So now what I want to do is I'm going to pull up now. Let's take a look at it's better when they're on special teams. That is when this team is really creating opportunities for themselves, is when they're on special teams. That is when Utah Hockey Club is at their most dangerous. And that speaks to a couple things, and we'll talk more about that. Yeah, so close to scoring. That would be cool to see. Sorry, I saw that chat that just came in from Scott. Again, I don't even know if the NHL tracks that, but I never understood that. So close to scoring, yeah. So it would be interesting to take a look at that as it relates to the shots being so close, hitting the net and all that stuff. That would be a fascinating thing to take a look at. Okay, look at how much higher their numbers jump, though, as it relates to in two sections of their stats. Number one is that their effectiveness in putting it in the back of the net goes up a lot on the power play, and it should. You have an extra guy off for the other team. You know, you've gotten a man advantage. So 8% of their 8.28 of all the shots that they take end up being goals on the power play. And so when you look at that, to me it says, well, geez, there should be a little more urgency to get more shots off on the power play. They're so careful about picking their spots on the power play, but it's an interesting thing for them to take a look at. Now, when you look at the shots on net, only 40.5% get to net. That's really low. They miss the net, and still over a quarter of their shots are missing the net, and a quarter of their shots are getting blocked. And again, there are a lot more blocked shots on power play because all the defenders, crowd in front of the net and do what they can just because they're trying to block and then get the clear, and without the icing, the icing penalty, foul, whatever you want to call it. It's not a penalty, but icing infraction. Without the risk of the icing infraction, this is an opportunity for teams to really pack it in, get a block shot, get the puck on their stick, and just clear it. And so about a quarter of their shots are also being blocked, but that's actually a much better number for them. So, it puts them right smack dab in the middle. They're average of all the other teams. But the real key is when they get shots off on the power play, they're putting them in the back of the net. And so it really speaks to, in my mind, this really speaks to the quality that we're seeing from the sorry. It really speaks to the quality that we're seeing from all the lines. And we know this. We know that there's difficulty with the third and fourth lines when it comes to scoring for Utah Hockey Club. There's a lot of difficulty for scoring for those lines. Matias Michelli was supposed to be kind of a little punch as it relates to that. And so, yeah. So Scott, just to be clear, it's ninth in their effectiveness on their shots on the power play, which is still good. It's not, they're slightly different, right? But when they do shoot, there's only 8 teams in the NHL right now that are potting more of them in the back of the net than them. But the power play is largely being comprised of, the top attackers. And Andre Tourigny's approach to that is to let them take a full, 90 seconds of the 2-minute power play. And if they're in control and they have the puck, obviously he lets them use all 2 minutes and doesn't try to find a way to get, after 45 seconds or a minute, get a change. He likes to keep the same group out for the power play. So it speaks to, there's a lot of top-heavy attack for Utah Hockey Club. Clayton Keller and Schmaltz and Gunther and Cooley and Hayton and Sergachev. All of them are bringing to the table a really nice attack. But when they're not on, it goes down significantly. What you're seeing is that the team is really not a team that has depth. And so when we talk about what Utah Hockey Club is trying to accomplish with their 20 games that are left this season, and as they try to find their way into the second wild card spot for the playoffs, the real problem for Utah Hockey Club is twofold. But the key one, though, is that they need to get better at even strength. They got to get a lot better at even strength. As it relates to the effectiveness of their shots that they get on net, there are advanced stats that look really great for Utah Hockey Club because they're getting a lot of shots. And so if you look at like their Corsi or Fenwick, like it looks a lot better. And you'd say, wow, they're getting so many shots off. But if they're just, if it's the puck back on the blue line and it's Michael Kesselring and he's just, kind of firing it into the mix and then it gets blocked, or we're just straight missing the net and doing those things, the theory of the case is that the more shots you have should give you a better chance to winning the game. But if you're missing the net with your opportunities, if you're missing the net and you are getting block shots all the time, that can lead to different things, and I'm okay with missing those. So like Carolina, they're really good and they take tons of shots and they miss the net a lot, and they have problems as it relates to those things. But Carolina forechecks, they really forecheck. All 4 lines are just out there trying to hit, and they're disciplined on their forecheck, and it makes a difference with what they're trying to accomplish on the forecheck. So that to me is one of the things that I think Utah Hockey Club needs to improve in the coming years, and obviously it'll be in the coming years because they didn't make any trades. They didn't do anything to improve this season's roster or the depth within it. And they re-signed, Kerfoot, and they re-signed Mata and Cole, and then they got they decided to go all in with Vejmelka. And so I think Vejmelka's had a really good season. That 5-year deal, a decent amount of money for Veggie. It should be fine, I hope. But I think that's okay. I think giving just Kerfoot and Cole another 1-year deal makes a lot of sense to me. 3 years to Oli Mata is fine. So those are all the things that I'm thinking about with it. And I thought it was interesting the way they're positioning it. It's like, well, these guys have earned the right to kind of stay together. And that's what Bill Armstrong said in his press conference. And I think the reality is that it's really obvious that they weren't getting very many bites as it relates to Nick Bukestad or Michael Carcone, as it related to Kerfoot and these other players, they have said clearly, and I'll just believe them, that their feeling about that whole scenario was just that they wanted to feel like they could hang on to guys that they really enjoy having be around. Kerfoot is really a versatile player, and it's obvious that what they were able to potentially get back from those trades didn't match the value that Bill Armstrong and Andre Tourné felt for those players. So it'll be an interesting thing. I don't want to get into like future seasons. I've been thinking about it a lot though today, and it's like you look at, Dmitry Shimashev's going to come over. And it's like, if you sign Cole and Mata, and we got Kesselring, and we got Dursey and Marino, usually guys from Russia are not interested in coming over and playing in the AHL. So with Shimashev coming off of his contract in the KHL, the question is will he be willing to come over and play in Tucson? Typically, Russians aren't willing to do that. Daniel Butt, right? Boot. He comes off. And so, okay, good. Wild just scored in Vancouver. Hey! Let's go. Let's go, Minnesota. Thank you, Minnesota Wild. Okay, excellent. And then... maybe I just went to go check that just because I was curious. And then, yeah, okay. I see what you say, too, about the Blues. Okay, the Blues scored. Well, we don't want that. We'd prefer Anaheim to get the win tonight in that one, but that's where we are. Okay, thanks for the update there, Scott. Appreciate that. So it'll be interesting to see what happens, right? What do they do about the KHL scenario as it relates to Daniel Boot? I don't know. I'm certain it's Boot, but it's B-U-T. Everyone's going to just end up calling him Butt. Daniel Butt and Dmitry Shimashev. Yeah, I mean, you have them off of a KHL contract. They're both really skilled players. They're playing for one of the top teams in the KHL. I liked what I saw from both of them in the developmental game. So anyway, it speaks to like a lot of those things. It's like, well, there's already 6 quality players on the blue line, and you got Maverick Lamoureux, and you've got Dmitry Shimashev. And the question is like, I guess you hope that Shimashev is going to be happy to go play down in Tucson, I guess. So, 3-1 now for St. Louis. Okay. All right. Well, Anaheim, thanks for nothing. Let's go Wild, though. That's the key one. That's the really key one. So, yeah. So, that was kind of what I was thinking about when it came to the blue liners that were re-signed. And then, Kerfoot is a very versatile player. So, that made some sense. And yeah, I think the reason that it was positioned the way it was, that these guys earned let's not, like, they're like in 6th place in their division. Like, what have they earned at this point? There's 3 teams between them and a wild card spot. It's close, but we're talking about, I don't know, it's an interesting framing. Let's just assume they were good and they're like Dallas. It's like Dallas is one of the top teams in the West. Their general manager didn't think like, well, these guys have earned to stay together. They're one of the top teams in the West. It's like, no. We're going to go out and figure out how to get Mikko Rantanen on our team. Colorado went out and found a way to get Charlie Coyle and Brock Nelson. And by the way, that to me is the biggest takeaway from today's like trade deadline, is just the nightmare that is the progress of the Utah Hockey Club and whatever they're called next year through the standings here. That is going to be one of the most difficult parts for this team in the coming years. Chicago isn't going anywhere. Excuse me, not Chicago. Dallas. Like, Dallas is not going anywhere. That is going to be a really tough team for many years. And Winnipeg, I mean, they're just quietly just the best team in the West, and they're going to continue to be beasts. We're seeing what Minnesota is doing tonight, and they're right there with Vancouver, but Colorado is like, they're the fourth place team, and that's the team that has Cale Makar and Nathan McKinnon, and they just got Brock Nelson on their team, and they went and got Charlie Coyle. And I think they're likely to probably re-sign Brock Nelson and get that solved. And Rantanen just signed a long-term deal. Wyatt Johnson re-signed, with the Stars. Like, the point is, the Jets, the Stars, the Wild, the Avalanche, those are all teams that Utah Hockey Club is going to have a very difficult time jumping in front of if they're to climb and be a consistent playoff team. One of those teams has to fall apart. And I just don't see, I mean, it's like it's crazy when we think maybe Winnipeg's the best choice. Because the Wild, I mean, they've got Matt Boldy, they've got Kaprizov. Like, the Wild have young studs in their team. And so the challenge there for Utah Hockey Club is how will they find their way to break in. And then meanwhile, Nashville, who's beneath us, it's like a surprise how bad Nashville is. And typically that's been a team that has not been comfortable waiting around for something. So what got solidified, the biggest takeaway for me at the trade deadline was that if the fourth place team in the division has Nathan McKinnon, Cale Makar, and now they've got Brock Nelson and Charlie Coyle, this team's got a problem. And the problem is that they've got to load up even more. The arms race to build up this team in that division, it may be I think it's the hardest division in hockey. Colorado's in fourth. Like, Minnesota is in third, and we know Dallas and Winnipeg, I mean, for heaven's sakes, they have been terrific. Just terrific. So yeah. So I just think that's the big takeaway from the trade deadline for me is that all of the people who are in front of Utah Hockey Club in the Central Division, they all got reinforcements. St. Louis is being shrewd with some of the things they've done in the offseason. And so they're going to be difficult to figure out. So the long-term growth of Utah Hockey Club into a consistent playoff team that gives them a chance to just go playoff, and find a way to get the experience of playoffs and then battle and fight their way into it. All of these other teams look well positioned to retain their players and continue to thrive with what they have in the years to come. So, because even if Winnipeg does fall off a little bit, they still have Connor Hellebuck. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there. Scott, let me see here. I wish they could make a deal with the Yeti mugs, right? Seattle was able to call their team the Kraken after making a deal with the rum company. Yeah. Apparently the amount of money that it was going to cost was too great. Even for Ryan Smith. So one of the things that could happen, Scott, is we could refer to them as the Yeti. Just steal the name from the brand, independent of whether or not the team license it. And then they go by Utah Hockey Club. They use the Yeti logo, and then we all call them Yeti, as a nickname for the team. The way that the Canadians, people call them the Habs. Maybe Utah Hockey Club, people could just start calling them Yeti, even if it's not their actual mascot name or whatever. So it'd be shorthand for them. I don't know, because people are always looking for something like that. So maybe it could still be Yeti, even if even if the cooler company isn't willing to play ball with him. How about that? I think it's probably going to be Mammoth. Seems like it's going to be Mammoth. But whatever it ends up being, I'm just grateful they got a team here in town. I think it's really fun to see how that's going to come along. So those are my thoughts, I guess, from the trade deadline. The other thing, too, is just hilarious that they were able to trade away Shea Weber's contract today. Obviously, the Shea Weber contract was on the books this year. It was on the books next year and eating into the salary cap. It clears up a lot of extra space. It also speaks to a different day and age for this franchise, in particular. Bill Armstrong, when he was in Arizona, he was busy dealing with things like, let's eat Shea Weber's contract because it gets us to the salary floor. And other teams could give out bad contracts and they could be like, well, we can foist that contract on Arizona. And now it's clear that, it's a new day and age because Ryan Smith is not interested in having salary dumps that only require a $1 million in actual money responsibility, but then take up $7.5 million in your salary cap. It's this loophole where you don't have to pay very much money, but then can have your salary cap, go up, and that way you hit the salary floor and you're not in trouble with the other owners, but then you don't have to pay as much in those circumstances. The fact that they cleared that out because he's actually interested in spending that $7.5 million to a player that will actually be on their roster really, really, really will be important. So, Scott, you're a big Yeti guy, huh? You want the Yeti. You like the Yeti logo. I thought it was fine. But again, I will come. I believe that I will come around to whatever the name is, and it will be cool. Yeah. I do think that they need to get a better goal song. That's my biggest thing is that, and I also think that they should embrace some of the hockey things that are great hockey things. Like there could be a really awesome organist, for instance, for the Utah Hockey Club, and I'm certain that there's some pretty great organists in Salt Lake City, in the area. And so I'd like to see that. I know they tried a thing where they try to make it feel like a club, and I'm glad they're not just playing divorced dad rock the whole time during the games, and that the fans aren't singing all the small things and things like that. No shots fired. I'm glad other teams are having fun with that. I think it's cool if Utah does something a little different. So I do applaud that they're trying something different by trying to make it feel like a club and have club mixes to all the songs that they're playing, and they have a DJ there that's spinning and stuff. They're trying something different, and I think that's okay. But I also think that combine the club feel with some of the old school organ stuff. I actually think the organ stuff would rule. And in fact, in some ways, it would be awesome if they just went full organ. Actually get rid of all the DJ stuff. Go super duper crazy traditional, more traditional than all the other teams. And it's just organ interludes that rule. That might be kind of cool. But I'm a nerd. I think that stuff would be fun. It'd be cool to get the doot 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 doot, and people are clapping, and stuff. I like it. I think that would be pretty cool. Okay. So let's see. Okay. I do think to get back to the game just for a minute here, I'll bring this up one more time. Okay, so who are your favorite Utah Hockey Club players from tonight? I'll give you one, and this is kind of my theory on fighting. I absolutely loved Michael Carcone's fight. Loved it. First of all, he acquitted himself fine, really well against Ryan Donato. That's number one. Number 2, Ryan Donato was being a jerk to Logan Cooley. And he was coming after Logan Cooley. And Michael Carcone knows who he is and what he's supposed to be doing in that scenario. And he got in there and scraped. He got into that scrap and found a way to show Ryan Donato that, hey, we're not going to stand for you bullying Logan Cooley like this. That's the kind of fight that I love to see, that makes sense to me, and that I'm totally good with. I am not a fan of the sort of fight that happened with Liam O'Brien. Him and Patrick Maroon fighting because they could, because they were having a face-off at center ice. They dropped the puck, and then they both throw their gloves down. Hey, you want to go? You want to go? I didn't see anything done by Patrick Maroon or by Liam O'Brien that would make either of those players need to feel like they needed to fight in that scenario. It also didn't feel like a moment where, I don't know, didn't feel to me like a moment where like Utah Hockey Club needed energy or Chicago needed energy. It just seemed like a couple of, bruisers wanting to fight because it's what they do. I don't know. Not my favorite kind of fight. I thought that the fight between Michael Carcone and Ryan Donato was meaningful. Listen, I'm... and so anyway, that's kind of my larger point is like I think that when the fights are meaningful, when it's standing up for your teammates, when you did something borderline or a little dirty and you got to stand up for yourself or account for it or whatever. Like I think that all of those fights are totally great. I'm not saying that the fight between Maroon and O'Brien wasn't fun, and it wasn't like I wasn't watching. I definitely was tuning in to see what was going to happen. I just those sort of fights aren't as fun for me. Someone saw your post about the goal song and stole your idea. Who stole that, Scott? Did you want to do the Max Verstappen song like they're using right now? Or are you talking about me? Anyway, yes, I'd like to hear a better goal song. Something and to something that feels signature to us. Like I'm not a country music fan, but I like that Nashville uses a country song for their goal song. I like Vancouver's goal song. I like that they use Don't You Forget About Me. They use like an 80s jam. I think that's pretty cool. Anyway, I'm on board with all that. Like all that. I'm with it. So, as it relates to tonight's other players, I thought Vejmelka was one of the best players for this team. Obviously, Keller had a power play goal. He had an assist to Schmaltz at the beginning of the game. Continues to be a high-performing player for Utah Hockey Club. I actually wish we saw more aggression out of Clayton Keller. I feel like he's not. Sometimes he gets a little bit. Oh, okay. Yeah, the original is Pig Bag from 1979. Yeah, the 1979. That'd be cool. It's a good one. Good idea, Scott. Yeah, not bad. Not bad there at all. So I just to finish the thought as it relates to as relates to the game and other players. Clayton Keller actually with how good of a shot he is. There are times where it feels like he just doesn't take it as much, and he's an interesting player to watch in that sense because there seems to be more intention in the attack of other top players. And Keller does a thing where he I don't know. He looks for playmaking so much more than a lot of the other top players, and it just doesn't seem like he goes to the net as much as he ought to. So would love to see more from Clayton Keller there, but again, he's having a good season at this point. 23 goals now up to this point. He'll probably crack 30 again. Not very many players, like less than 10, have had 3 straight seasons with 30 consecutive seasons with 30 goals. Puts him in a group. It will put him in a pretty exclusive group if he reaches it. So that's, who am I to question what he's doing? He's finding ways to get the puck in the net. I just think that he could probably be a 40 goal scorer for sure if he went to the net a whole lot more. It just feels like his shot is so special that if he took more opportunities to go at the net and attack and have a little malice there. And the other thing too is Keller more recently has been a lot better about getting to the front and getting in there and scraping down in there a little bit. So that's been a good thing to see as well. Okay, that is it for today's After the Buzzer. Utah Hockey Club falls to the Chicago Blackhawks. The next time that they take the ice, the Utah Hockey Club will be playing the Toronto Maple Leafs. And the Toronto Maple Leafs are going to be at home, but Utah is going to have a 3-day rest advantage over the Maple Leafs. So I like the chances for Utah in that game in Toronto. Obviously, very skilled team. Toronto just added another center to their group in Scott Lawton. And obviously, we mentioned, Austin Matthews and Mitch Marner and Tavares and Matthew Nyes and William Nylander, right? And this is the point that I'm getting at is that I just listed all the great names that play on Toronto, and they can't make a run in the East. They do get to the playoffs all the time, and they can't make a run. And I'll be curious to see whether Utah can add things in a really significant way so that they can, improve their standing within the Central Division and make it so that it's not such a grind to try to get into the playoffs. And right now, given the effectiveness of the power play and its much better ability to generate for this team, and by the way, it's just if teams can be disciplined against Utah Hockey Club, it becomes much, much, much more difficult for Utah to find a way just because of who they are at even strength. So hopefully you enjoyed hanging out with us tonight and watching tonight's After the Buzzer. If you did, give us the little thumbs up underneath. Give us the like to this video. Also, if you haven't yet, please subscribe to the channel and check us out. Again, my name is Keith Schertz. Run things here at Hive State Hockey. And Utah Hockey Club goes down in overtime 4-3 to the Chicago Blackhawks on a game-winning overtime goal by Connor Bedard on a day in which Utah stood pat with their lineup. No significant changes made at the trade deadline, while everybody else around them made improvements. So we'll have a terrific opportunity to watch them try to fight their way into the playoffs. It will be fascinating. One last check before we sign off tonight. Final. Vancouver gets the win over Minnesota. Yuck. We don't like that. And let's check the other one. Is it the Blues? The Blues are going to win. They're up 4-2 with a minute left. Okay, so that loser point becomes really, really important after that one tonight. So they were 3 points down heading into the night. They will be 4 points down leaving tonight. So the breaks did not go their way. This is going to be one of those games we're going to look at maybe at the end of the year and go, ooh. Needed to find a way to get that one done in Chicago on the on the second night of the back-to-back. But otherwise, we were there. Yeah, it's pretty fun tonight. Pretty fun. Thank you for talking with me, Scott. Really appreciate having you hang out with us. Also, Car Wash, signing off to you. And those of you who are silent but listening to us, we're glad you're hanging out. I hope each of you is very well. And we will see you again real soon. Have a good night. And go Utah Hockey Club. How about that?